Equipe GTS in association with British Motor Heritage.
Welcome to Equipe GTS, where the car really is the star. From this little MGB right up to Le Mans going TVRs and Triumphs, this series offers really clean but really close racing. It should be exciting to watch. Rob Cole, you're part of the team that run Equipe GTS, and you get all sorts of incredibly exotic cars out. What have we got here this weekend?
Well, this weekend we're very blessed to have we've got a genuine race 100S Healy, which is just a wonderful thing to see. We also have a fantastically good Morgan that you'll see, which is from Le Mans in '60, so fantastic car. We have Genuine Works TVR that raced at Le Mans. Some of the MGBs too, they are just as well prepared as that car is, and you know the level of preparation we have with our series is exemplary. So.
Yeah, it is, and it is a boon, isn't it? The parts for MGBs are so readily available these days in terms of panels, for instance, and all that sort of stuff that's essential to keep a race car on the track.
Oh, definitely, and one of our partner sponsors, Heritage, they're at the forefront of making sure that all those parts are available. But even down to some of the other guys, with Jigsaw Racing and people like that, they go out of their way to, if the parts are hard to get, they will manufacture them and keep all these wonderful cars on the track. So.
Duncan, you're new to Equipe GTS. What's brought you to this series?
I've known the series for many years, and it has all the right ingredients of camaraderie, great driving. I've seen it from a distance, and I just thought, actually, I've been racing for a long time with older stuff. I thought it was time to try something a bit more modern.
Yes, it's not many people who could regard Equipe GTS as modern racing. What is your background? Where have you come from?
I come from the pre-war racing world. I've raced a vintage Bentley for getting on for 25 years now. So this is here's a car that goes and stops. So it's a new departure.
And how competitive are you finding it out there?
Well, I have to say, for the first time out, 58 cars on the grid yesterday, starting from almost at the back. It was very competitive at the back. So when the leaders came round, yeah, my God, they were on it. They really were on it. But it was fantastic. Really very good racing. Very good, clean, fun racing.
This is a really special car. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's one of 55 100Ss, which are the racing 100s that were built by Austin Healey for racing in Sebring, Le Mans and other places. It's a car that was raced by a man called John Dalton. It won 47 races in 1955 and 56. It won the Autocar Championship in 1956, and it raced at Dundrod, which was an international circuit, with also Lance Macklin driving it, who was the guy who raced Austin Healey 100s at Le Mans, and unfortunately was also involved in the crash at Le Mans in 1955.
What a piece of motoring history in and of itself, and I must say it's just fantastic that you're actually using it as it was intended rather than just leaving it on a shelf somewhere. But how did you come by this car? How did it end up in your hands?
It was a car that had been raced for the last sort of 8 or 9 years by another chap called Peter Thornton, and he wanted to move it on, and I wanted a car that I could race and that was already prepared for racing and had a race history. And it's a car that's always raced throughout its life, and it seemed to me it should carry on racing.
What's it like when you're out there on track in such an amazingly rare car, such an important piece of motoring history in an actual live racing environment? These aren't display laps that you're doing in Equipe GTS.
Yeah, no, I have to say there are times when it's a little nerve-wracking when it's close racing, I have to say. Sometimes I do think about that, yeah. But nevertheless, the racing's fun, and you just take the risks.
So Simon, most of this grid really is MGs, but you're in a Morgan, Chalk Ices. Tell me about that.
Chalk Ices was christened actually in 1961, goes all that way back.
You've had the car since then?
No. The then owner, who Peter Martin was on the grid at Spa in 1961, and his mechanic came to the lovely name of Nobby Clark, told him a joke, which the punchline was Chalk Ices. So when they kept put the lap board out, they didn't put up number 24, they put Chalk Ices up, and so the car has always been known as Chalk Ices, and it's probably the only Morgan which is known by its nickname rather than its registration number. All the other ones it would be otherwise be known as PGP, so it's known as Chalk Ices.
Isn't that fantastic? Now, how does a car like this cope with such a long race?
The car copes fine, it's the driver. I did 2 half-hour races yesterday. I tell you, by the end of this, it's heavy steering, and your arms get very tired. And you shouldn't do. I mean, I suppose if you really did enough exercises and all that kind of stuff, you'd be fit enough for it. But at our age, who cares? You know. So it's a tiring race, and also luckily it's open. The other car is closed, and this afternoon could get quite warm, I think.
Some of the machinery involved in Equipe GTS is truly beautiful. This car, one of the standout cars anyway in this grid for me. It's owned by Jeremy Woods. Come over here, Joe. Tell us about this car in Italia. What is it? What's the history to this car?
Triumph Italia is quite a rare beast, one of 326 that were made.
Wow.
They're based on a Triumph TR3, and they were sent over from the UK, and they were built in Italy by Vignale, designed by Michelotti, and mostly they were all abroad. Most of them went to America, so there are some in Europe. And this one was owned by a guy in Germany, and he converted it to a race car in the mid-90s.
Equipe GTS, this is proper actual wheel-to-wheel racing in these rather unique machines. You're not the driver though?
No, I'm not a race driver, and so I'm relatively new to this historic racing scene. But Mark I've known for a few years, and he's got a team of excellent drivers. And I went with Mark Field of Jigsaw down to Le Mans, the Classic Le Mans, a couple of years ago, and Alistair Pugh we've seen race at Le Mans, so I trust him with the car. And she went out for the first time yesterday, first time in 20 years.
Wow. Equipe GTS is all about British metal of a certain era. Some of it is extremely classic, iconic even. Tell me about this car which you're lucky enough to own.
1B raced 1964-65 Le Mans 24 Hour. She was one of 3 cars one year, 4 cars the second. Both years she was unfortunately crashed. She was broken up on the return, and from 1990, when I started to find parts of the car, I spent 14 years restoring her to what you see now. We have raced in the Le Mans Classic. We've won our class 3 times with her there. We race every time we can with the Equipe GTS. Really enjoy it. Fantastic racing.
Yeah, what is it that appeals to you about this championship? Is it that closeness and the fact that there is so much respect for other people's cars in a way that there probably isn't in certain, shall we say, newer championships?
It's respect for cars, respect for other drivers. It's non-contact sport. You've got to just get out there and enjoy it. They don't need to be in a museum. They should be out there doing what they do, and that's the best part of it.
So Simon, you're new to racing and new to this car. What on earth has brought you here?
Well, a couple of years ago, me and my youngest son Ross come here to watch the MG Motorsport and MG Day, and we thought that we should be racing. And the car's a reasonable, cheap entry car, if you like, and that's how we started.
Oh, it's fantastic, and the car is just spectacular. Tell me about it.
Well, I started looking at some second-hand cars, and they're not quite up to scratch of what I wanted, so I was directed to a chap called Doug Smith who owns MG Motorsport, and he built us the car that you see.
Fantastic. Now, why have you chosen Equipe GTS to cut your teeth in as a race driver?
Well, once again, I didn't even know where I was going to race. when I was doing the deal, buying the car, I didn't even have a race licence at the time. And Doug, who built the car, directed me where to race and introduced me to Rob and John, who run Equipe, and here I am today.
Well, fantastic. And what's it like racing in such a series full of such kind of awe-inspiring cars? In your little MGB, you know, and you've got all sorts of Le Mans cars and goodness knows what else on the grid. What's that like as a novice driver?
Well, I still get butterflies when I go out now, and I've done about 6 races. I'm quite aware of what's around me, but I've still got the cross on the back to indicate everyone that I am still a learner, so everyone gives you a bit of room and everyone's quite gentlemanly about it, which is another good thing racing with these guys.
Robbie, tell me about this car. It is quite beautiful to look at, a TVR.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I've owned it about 3-4 years now. I bought it, I'd done a lot of rallies, but it's actually an original, one of 3 competition cars that were built for Le Mans in 1963. It went over there, but didn't actually race. I was looking around for a race car and I saw this one, effectively Le Mans history, and that's one of the reasons I was so keen on it, because it's eligible for Le Mans Classic, which is an amazing 24-hour classic race.
Yeah, of course. And what's drawn you to Equipe GTS?
It's a good bunch of guys, it's a good racing series, it's really competitive, and it's one of the races where someone like a TVR, you know, you can be up at the sharp end.
Presumably it's not that possible to develop it much further, to make it much quicker than it already is, effectively out of the box for you.
Absolutely, it pretty much is what it is. The handling's all sorted, and but it's a good competitive car.
Join us after the break when we have action from the main race of the weekend.
Period British racing cars are beautiful things. This MGB, look at it, resplendent, and this is kind of the backbone, if you like, of Equipe GTS. This car, though, deceptively, although it may look like a 1960s original, this is actually a new body shell. The old car has been restored entirely, completely and utterly. It is remarkable work that's gone on. It's all carried out by British Motor Heritage. They've actually got the machine tools from which these cars were built in the first place. Now, John, you're the boss. Tell me about this beautiful MGB. I mean, it looks absolutely mint in box. It looks absolutely spotless.
We built this car to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the MGB. Essentially, we built it to be in a very classic specification, so chrome bumper, chrome grille, chrome wire wheels. It's been uprated with slightly better seats, so it's got nice red leather interior. And the other thing that we've done is that we fitted fuel injection to the engine, because for the modern motorist that just takes away the aggravation of having to operate a choke, and also it solves with the engine management all the sort of starting, hot running issues that people used to experience back in the day. For somebody who has an interest in classic motoring but has no interest whatsoever in getting involved in the mechanics of the thing, this is just a really stress-free way of being able to enjoy classic motoring.
And you know, I mean, it's drawing the crowds. You know, we've got people looking around it at the moment. I mean, it's certainly an eye-catching vehicle. And I suppose, you know, it's a perfect match for something like Equipe GTS. I know that you're a driver in a different race-prepared MGB in there.
Yeah, well, my MGB follows the similar pattern. Again, it's built into it's a heritage shell. The only differences are, obviously, it's stripped and prepared for racing. It has a rollover cage in it. And it also has, we do some aluminium panels which will enable you to lighten the car, which are perfectly legitimate. So door skins, boot skins. The cars anyway have an aluminium bonnet. So essentially, it builds on what we do with these. And it's, again, a very practical way to go racing, because you know exactly what you start with when you start with a brand new metal body shell. There's no hidden rust, there's no hidden filler. It's a good straight place to start.
John Pearson, you're part of the team that runs this series. How easy is it to bring all of these different cars together on track? How hard is that to organise?
Well, the series itself has been going for about 12 or 14 years, so there was a lot of equity there. What my partner Rob and I did was bring the series together from two other series, one of which was called Equipe GTS, which has been going a long time. And so actually putting the two together meant that a lot of people have one place to be. Our vision for this series is for it to be the go-to series for smaller engine FIA cars. So MGBs, TR4s, Lotuses, Morgans, TVRs, all those smaller engine things. And we keep very close racing that way.
Yeah, and it is close racing, but it's also very clean. Is that a measure of the unique quality, if you like, of some of the cars that we get out there?
Well, this is amateur clubman racing. Everybody races with their own money, their own cars. Nobody's expecting a call up from Ferrari Formula One next week, and we're here for fun. Therefore, we have a yellow card system. We want clean driving. There's no such thing as totally safe motor racing. And the guys at the front, and you'll see from your video today, guys at the front are very serious, very competitive, very fast, but very clean.
Interesting. How important do you think it is for these cars to be seen in their natural environment on a racetrack, actually competing for places?
I think it's really great because I know you've interviewed some people who've got genuine Le Mans history cars. We've got some beautiful cars that have got racing history. These cars were built to race, and then you've got right down to ordinary MGBs that have been converted to race cars for not much money, that people can go out of the weekend and have some real genuine clubman fun with.
Second race of the weekend about to get underway. An incredible field of cars have been assembled. We've got 57 cars on the grid, and it's Mark Cole in yellow who starts on pole. Tom Smith is alongside, finishing second yesterday. Mark Ashworth third on the grid. Then the Class 2 pole man Richard Woolmer in the Turner. Chris Ryan in the Triumph TR4. But the Union Jack is waved, and away we go racing. And it's a great start by Mark Cole from pole position. Outside line here, of course, pole position at Silverstone. And the best part of 60 cars unleashed on the Silverstone historic GP circuit. Keep your eyes on number 20. That's Scott Cottelbaum in the Elva Courier, a retiree in the first race of the weekend. He was the outright pole position sitter in the meeting qualifying session, but he's starting well down the order, so he's got a lot of cars to negotiate, and we know that that's a quick car. We know that Scott's a quick driver, and I'm sure he will make some progress through the field. Few onboards to share with you. This is Andrew Bentley starting 12th on the grid, 7th in class in race number 1. Race leaders coming through for the first time down at Stowe Corner though. Magnificent sight. I just would not be able to put a value on the entire field here. The mind boggles as to how much this impressive collection of machinery is worth. There is Ian Smythe about to be passed by Scott Cottelbaum, the Elva Courier on the inside line of the Triumph Spitfire Le Mans. So some real historic machinery as we look at Peter Edney, 9th in class, battling with David Beresford. Beresford, class winner in the series opener this year at Donington Park. Race won by Brian Arculus, who's leading his class here at the moment. But it's Mark Cole, renowned racer, who is in front at the moment from Tom Smith, and we go in car with Tom in second position. Richard Woolmer and Mark Ashworth give chase. There is Brian Arculus just going out of shot in his Lotus Elite, and pretty big sort out happening in the early stages of this one. Lap 1, a long lap, 3.6 miles for everybody. Mike Harris in front of Andrew Bentley at the moment. Bentley's going to go in, he's in the red car with the white roof, challenging the green car, and looking at the outside line coming down into Brooklands. Slots back in. You heard from everybody involved in Equipe GTS that this is about competition, this is about racing, but it being clean and fair is not only encouraged but also very much, I don't say enforced, but there is a system in place to make sure that driving driving standards are maintained at a very high level, and that's what you'll see throughout the course of this race. So lap number 1, and we pick up there on car number 9, that's Peter Edney. Saw him on the early stages of the lap, running well at the moment. Nick Crewdson's on board, so we've got a pair of onboard runners effectively together there. And now pick up on the battle. We've got Paul Latimer in red up ahead of Martin Richardson in 64. Rob Cole in the TVR Grand Tourer is next to him, and completing lap 1, Simon Milner, Graham Robson in 55 starting off the back, Luke Spencer in car number 19 as well. So plenty of space here on the GP circuit. Wonderful to see so many cars. There's Patrick Rignall running in class 5, car number 132, and working his way through. Got Robert Croft in the mix as well. Patrick's Austin Healey 100S. Mike Harris dicing with Andrew Bentley. Andrew, of course, one of our camera carriers. This is the International Pit Straight. Contrast here of the very modern facilities and the classic lines of these wonderful cars on that straight. And good that they still get to go past and indeed use the older pit garages on the national circuit here as well. Patrick Rignall still making progress. Robert Croft looking on the inside line. Ian Smythe trying to go through as well. Both of the lead 2 drivers I described there coming through after non-finishes in race number 1 from the back of the field. So they'll be enjoying their journey up through the field as we focus again on Rob Cole. Paul Latimer ahead of him in the red car, the white top with the green and red stripes aboard, and Nick Crewdson in front. This is for 14th and 15th position. Nick Crewdson ahead of Andrew Bentley. Crewdson in the all-red car. A little bit of smoke out of the back of Rob Cole's car. Looks down the inside line. Very neatly executed move going into Brooklands. Andrew Bentley looking for some space on the inside line of Nick Crewdson. See whether he can get that move done. The race leaders coming up to complete lap number 2. So Bentley and Crewdson side by side. I think they're going to cross the line together. Brian Arculus goes through. Robbie Bernberg is next in 7th. Then Pete Foster. Paul Latimer goes through next. Then we've got Martin Richardson, Rob Cole. Nick Crewdson in number 30 is still there as well. And completing their lap, Patrick Rignall trying to past David Ferry. Robert Croft is up ahead of him. We'll wait for these guys to come towards us here and complete their first lap in this half-hour race. There is Croft still ahead at the moment of Rignall. So some cracking racing going on, and we're going to pick up on Mike Harris, who's on that outside line. Andrew Bentley in 94 still got the upper hand at the moment on Nick Crewdson. Here's the view from Bentley looking at the back end of Mike Harris's car, heading down in towards the wing area, that very space age looking building called the wing. So Harris, Bentley and Crewdson followed by Robin Ellis and David Beresford in car number 17. And we'll have more for you from Silverstone after the break. Robbie Bernberg going through shot in his TVR Grand Tourer Mark III. 2 of those up in the top 10. There's the second of them, car number 69, which is Rob Cole. And we're watching Equipe GTS here at Silverstone. Very nearly 60 cars taking to the start of this, the 4th race of the season. We've had 1 race at Donington Park, 2 at Brands Hatch. Next round is at Donington Park in September, you'd be very welcome to join us. Wide line there for Andrew Bentley. Having a look at Mike Harris in the green 121 Roadster ahead, Nick Crutzen. Remember, this pair were dicing hard. Got cameras on both cars, dicing hard in part 2 for opening laps of the race. And that still continues. Brian Articulus goes through 6th place, leading Class 1. Then Robbie Bernberg. Pete Foster is next in the mix, and we're going to catch up with David Griffiths, 144, chasing Michael Lillywhite. So the Triumph TR4 chasing the MGB Roadster. And we'll see whether David can make any moves. It's Paul Canelli, incidentally, immediately behind in his Roadster. Race leaders down at Stowe Corner. Still Cole from Ashworth and Smith. Richard Woolmer in 138, the Turner Mark II, leading Class 2. The Mark II originally built in 1960. Briefly see Steve Naish there in 37. One of the many Class 3 runners. And, well, the key thing for me, wonderful machinery. Wherever you look on track, on this 3.6 mile lap, you'll see great machinery and some pretty close battles going on as well. And driving standards, as we heard in the interviews, absolutely paramount in this championship, and they've been absolutely exemplary so far. And making terrific progress. Catching up with Peter Edney now is Scott Kottlebaum. Is going to have a look on the inside line as we flick back. That's David Eales in car number 10, ahead of Simon Milner, and then David Brown in the MGB Roadster. Here's the view again from Stowe Corner. Alistair Pugh, car number 21, ahead of 43. Phil Moss in the Roadster. Alistair Pugh in the Triumph Italia. Duncan Wiltshire and Ian Smythe are in the mix as well. Smythe, of course, in the Triumph Spitfire Le Mans. And he's at the back of that quintet at the moment, just trying to hunt down Duncan Wiltshire. Finished a little way down in Class 3 in race number 1 of the weekend. And now we pick up on Scott Kottlebaum again, having a look at the inside line of Nick Crutzen. So he's going to try and go through on the inside line, challenging for 14th place here. And in fact, he's got it. So a very good move indeed there by the Elva Courier, originally built on the south coast, Westham Bexhill, which of course is renowned for its motor racing routes. And later on, Elva moved to the less picturesque town of Croydon, which actually still has race car building technology with Ray Formula cars who run in the modern Formula Ford championships. But the Elva, as I say, being very well driven indeed. Fastest lap in race number 1 of the weekend, outright pole position, so would expect progress through the field. But to deal with this many cars and very much knocking on the door of the top 10 now for Kottlebaum, who's really done a superb drive. Here's Nick Crutzen just behind him, coming down the Hanger Straight, the legendary Hanger Straight. And it's the 69 car of Rob Cole, which is next to be passed. So TVR versus Elva. Elva on the inside. I mentioned Bexhill, another seaside town. Blackpool, of course, the home of TVR. Here is Jason Harris in the Healy 100, 23rd position. And Max Cawthorne immediately behind him. So 23rd sounds like a long way down, but bear in mind that's well inside the top half of the field. Nick Crutzen in 30, still chasing Mike Harris at the moment. John Pearson goes through shot in the Elite, and then David Griffiths in the Triumph TR4. And we'll pick up on Car 391, that's Barry Sidery Smith's been racing MGs for a long time. Remember him watching him years ago racing MGs. Robert Croft immediately behind as well. Patrick Rignall is in the mix as well in 132 in the Austin Healey. So Paul Connelly ahead of these guys. There is Patrick, who's got the fastest lap in Class 5 at the moment, the outright fastest lap with Mark Ashworth in the TVR Grantura, and that was 2 minutes 37.866 set back on lap 2. Meanwhile, here is the man that Mark dislodged in the early stages, Tom Smith. Immaculate preparation in that car. Back to Mark Cole though, the race leader, former Carrera Cup champion here in the UK, and a noted sports car ace. Superb lines, the poise of the car absolutely superb in Mark Cole's hands. We go back, pick up on Jason Harris in 401, has made a lot of progress through the field, and Jason currently running just outside the top 20. So it's Cole, Ashworth and Smith. I think Tom Smith is starting to close in. Now, first, second and third, all Class 3 cars, 1676 to 1860cc. Here's the view from Tom Smith. Again, an opportunity to look at the superb preparation inside the car. The TVR, though, in second position, the meat in an MG sandwich at the moment. We'll see whether Mark Ashworth, who knows he's quick, I'm not sure whether he'll know he's got the fastest lap of the race, but certainly some good progress from him. This the view from John Pearson, again chasing David Griffiths. These two 23rd and 24th on the grid. David Griffiths running in Class 4, second position. John Pearson running in second position in Class 1 behind Brian Arculus. So Brian Arculus a fair way ahead, but nonetheless John Pearson running very well indeed in his elite. And as you can see, some very good inter-class battles going on. So down the hanger straight in towards Stowe Corner, and we'll see whether John can catch up with David a little bit later on in the race. But here is the view from Stowe Corner. Paul Connelly in the red 33 is running well, and they'll go out of Stowe down into Vale and the club complex. But meanwhile, a little bit further round the lap, Robbie Bernberg trying to close in on Brian Arculus. Bernberg running in 7th place. Bernberg, the car with the yellow stripe, the TVR Grantura. Immediately behind him, it's Martin Richardson in the 64. It all looks calm and sedate outside, but Robbie Bernberg having to work hard. This is one of the more technical sets of corners on the Silverstone historic GP circuit, and Robbie Bernberg dealing with it well, but unable to close up on Brian Arculus. And you just saw Scott Cottelbaum in the mix as well, coming through and climbing up towards. Now remember, Brian Arculus is running in 6th place, so Cottelbaum here, super drive. Pick up on Pete Foster at the moment, is going to be the next target. And you saw Paul Latimer in red and white at the back of that group of cars. But here's the view again from Andrew Bentley looking ahead at those. And there's Brian Arculus still running well, clear of Robbie Bernberg, and we'll see what Cottelbaum can do to try and close in on Pete Foster. Meanwhile, back in car with Robbie Bernberg and Brian Arculus, who won Class 1 in yesterday's race. Mark Cole taking outright victory. Richard Wallman winning Class 2. Chris Ryan in the TR4 winning Class 4. And now, as you can see, Pete Foster has been passed by the Elva Courier. Duncan Wiltshire in 46, Phil Moss in car number 43, Simon Milner in 49 and Clive Morley in number 15. Simon Milner has got a very good camera set up for us. Look at the blue skies, wonderful conditions here. And the 49 car's going to nip through on the inside of Phil Moss, and now moves to the outside line to pass Duncan Wiltshire. That was a great move, inside to outside, passing two cars, but cleanly done. That demonstrates what Equipe GTS is all about. Clive Morley at the back of that quartet, but a great move by Simon Milner. There is Duncan Wiltshire trying to hunt him back, coming into Maggots, left-hand King. View of the driver, good smooth poise there, good smooth pose from him, but going back through, Duncan Wiltshire repays the compliment, nips back through on the inside line. The black car with the red bonnet. Simon Milner immediately in behind. And we'll have more for you from Equipe GTS after this short break. Andrew Bentley still giving chase to Paul Latimer, coming through Woodcote and onto the main straight here. So Latimer holding sway at the moment. Bentley challenging hard, both of those drivers in the top 10. Brian Arculus goes out of shot, still coming under pressure from Scott Cottelbaum. There in 69 is Rob Cole. Rob looking at the back end at the moment of 121, which is Mike Harris in his Roadster. And here again, the Arculus Cottelbaum battle, and Brian Arculus in the Loads Elite leading Class 1. Got a pretty decent lead over John Pearson in class. And here again is the view from Andrew Bentley. So about to head on to the hangar straight. What's Bentley going to do? The inside line is covered. The inside going into Stowe Corner. So he's hanging on the outside line now. Is he going to get the pass done? It's the two red cars in the centre shot. We've got a slowing car, which is Kevin Hadfield, the 165 Trump Spitfire Le Mans, and Kevin rightly pulls over to the inside, and the Latimer Bentley battle goes through unimpeded. Well, here's Alistair Pugh ahead of David Ampler, who's coming under pressure from Simon Milner. Jonathan Austell behind those. Milner a couple of lengths back as they go into Brooklands. And from Brooklands into Luffield, then round into Woodcote to tick off another lap. 10-lap encounter should be the order of things. David Ampler there now being passed by Simon Milner, so a good move for Milner to go through. Now this is for 23rd place. David Griffiths running second in Class 4. John Pearson second in Class 1 to Brian Arculus. And maybe a little way down, but what a fascinating battle these two have had inter-class. Griffiths in the TR4. Pearson in the Lotus Elite. They've been so evenly matched all race long. And at the moment, Griffiths just has the upper hand. But coming onto the international pit straight, let's see whether Pearson will be able to have a challenge. Grabs the apex there, wheel for wheel at the moment, but comes offline. He's going to have a look down the inside line, heading into Abbey. It's not a defensive line though for David Griffiths out front. He holds on to position, and John Pearson is going to have to remount that challenge elsewhere on the historic GP circuit. So Simon Milner up ahead of Alistair Pugh, David Ampler. Mark Cole starting to come through. The yellow car is the race leader, Mark Cole, who's working his way through the traffic now and has got up into, he's actually lapped the best part of 15, 16 cars already. As you can see, the marshals waving the blue flags. It is lights on. And keep your eyes open for the pair that are chasing Mark Cole, who's going to, I think, maybe lap 3 cars for the price of 1 here. Car number 43 is Phil Moss, who's now been lapped, and Cole disappears down the straight. Are we going to get, yes we are there, the red and blue car and the red car following. second and third. And here's Tom Smith, who's going to take second position. Wonderful move by Smith, opportunistic, read the traffic well, and Tom Smith goes back into second place. Great move whilst dealing with the back marker traffic. Probably too far back in these closing stages to catch up with Mark Cole, barring any problems for Cole. He passes Alistair Pugh, laps Alistair Pugh. Alistair in the Triumph Italia, and Mark Cole on his way. Cole has not got fastest lap. That's still with Mark Ashworth, who is still fighting for second. And he's gunning back Ashworth there. You just saw go back into second position. They pass or lap Luke Spencer, and it's the two red cars, the red and blue TVR Grantura Mark III, who goes back into second place. He's got the fastest lap of the race, but runs very deep into Brooklands, and back into second position goes Tom Smith in the MG. So it's MG 1 and 2, TVR in third place, still stuck into the traffic. David Amphlett in light blue. He's going to be passed either side by the battle for second, and back through goes Mark Ashworth into second place. Meanwhile, Mark Cole goes on to the last lap. Well, stunning racing from Equipe GTS. That is exactly what this is about. No rash moves, all clean but fair, exciting racing. And it's Ashworth in second, the two marks, Cole and Ashworth first and second. Tom Smith in third, as we pick up on Jonathan Austell, who's running in car 36. Luke Spencer was in 19. We saw him pass by the leaders earlier on. And here's Robbie Bernberg looking at the back end of Paul Latimer. We came into this part of the programme looking at the back end of Latimer's car from Andrew Bentley, and now it's Robbie Bernberg who's on the outside line trying to make this count. You can just see a flash of red on the inside, and I think Robbie has managed now to make that. Cottlebourne goes through, then Arculus in sixth place. The Richardson-Foster battle is there as well, and here's another battle still. John Pearson chasing David Griffiths. They've had a superb race and kept us entertained all the way through. And this is Henry Rice and Jonathan Smare coming towards us, 18th and 19th. They've held their own throughout the start of the race, but it's a spin for Henry Rice. Curse of the commentator there. Hopefully he will recover and get a reasonable finish. David Amphlett ahead of this group, and as you can see, Phil Moss in 43, Jonathan Austell in 36, still in the mix as well. As we go back to the race leader Mark Cole, not so much of a big gap between himself and second and third, which is still a terrific scrap between Mark Ashworth and Tom Smith. Tom, when the opportunity presents itself, always seems to manage to pop through. Both of these cars, as indeed the race leader running in Class 3, Richard Woolmer, is fourth on circuit. He still leads Class 2. David Ferry now having been lapped by the leader. Ferry the car in behind. The car in front is the Morgan Plus 4 of Graham Coles, running third place at the moment in Class 4. But Mark Cole is going to take a second win of the weekend here. The gap about 3 seconds back to Mark Ashworth and Tom Smith, but the checker is readied, and there is the win for Mark Cole. Second position indeed goes to Mark Ashworth, and then a gap back in actual fact to the 22 car of Tom Smith, couple of seconds. There is Richard Woolmer, who takes his Turner Mark II into a class win and fourth position across the line. Fifth is going to go to Scott Cottlebourne. Fantastic drive in the Elva. Robbie Bernberg still in 10th in car number 3, side by side between Latimer and Rob Cull, who's got the position. So Cull up into 11th place. Paul Latimer is down to 12th. The checkered flag being readied now. In behind Paul Latimer, it's Mike Harris, who's been up at the sharp end with these guys all the way through. Fitting to see the two TVR Granturas together. Bernberg and Cull finishing in 10th and 11th place, very evenly matched indeed. But what a fine race, some superb machinery, some great clean racing, and won by Mark Cole there in car number 34, the MG. Mark Cole, the winner from Mark Ashworth and Tom Smith. Class 2 honours to Richard Walmer. Class 1 to Brian Arculus, and Class 4 goes to Pete Foster. Rob Cole came home in 11th place, ahead of Paul Latimer and Mike Harris. Class 5 win going to Jason Harris, down in 22nd position outright. Second position in Class 5 going to Patrick Rignall, who we saw in the early stages. 46 cars finishing a fantastic Silverstone Equipe GTS race.
Many congratulations on the win in your MGB. How was the race?
Yes, thank you very much. It was exciting. I just obviously tried to make a good start. I think Tom made a good start. Over the opening laps, I guess just tried to focus on carrying the speed, and it sort of broke me a bit of a gap. The competitiveness, I didn't anticipate it to be quite as tough as that. It was particularly with Tom, because he's a very, very good driver, and we had a good. That was as hard as any Carrera Cup race. You know, it was fair, it was hard. So yeah, kind of really impressed with it all.
Mark Ashworth, you were second place today. There was a bit of a gap, but you couldn't quite reel him back in.
No, I thought in the middle of the race I was getting nearer to him, and I think he alluded to that. And then I think maybe he was a little bit more fortunate through back markers than we were, and he got away and was about 4 seconds ahead of us at the end. But I think I kept him honest. He couldn't back off at all. And Tom and I had a really good ding-dong battle all the way through the race. Really, really good racing. But clean racing, can always race with people in this championship, this series.
So Tom, you were third today on the podium, but you couldn't quite nail him.
No, we knew today was going to be a bit of hard work after yesterday. Got an issue with the tyres, and basically just ran out of grip. So it's a bit like driving in the wet and everyone else was in the dry. So we didn't have much chance, but we gave it a good go. Car felt good apart from the tyres, so I think we did the best we could with what we had.
Well, the traditional podium presentations wrap up the day's action from Silverstone and Equipe GTS. A big thank you for watching. If you'd like to find out more about the series, then check out the series website, www.equipegts.uk. That's all we've got time for on Last Lap. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.